My, my, my presentation is not a presentation. I'm not using slides. I'm working without a net. It's dangerous for everyone concerned. And it's entitled Musings. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to muse for a while, whatever musing is. But I'm going to muse in 3 parts. So the part 1 of my musings is to destroy your expectations. You see, this is sort of the end, right? It's the end of a sales meeting. I am supposed to send you off thinking about the future and the successes you will have and the joy of your triumphs. But instead of speaking about the future and successes and joy, I instead have chosen to speak about the past and difficulty and despair. You think I'm kidding? I'd like to begin by talking about our species, humans, man. We are quite odd, aren't we? If you think about us for a little bit, our claws are too small and weak to inflict any harm. Our teeth and jaws are insufficient for attack. Our hair grows in grotesque, funny patches in different parts of our body, insufficient to insulate us from the elements. We run, but not very fast. We swim, but not very well. We climb, but others can climb better. So how is it that this weak, defenseless, soft creature has come to so dominate the planet? I believe there are 3 reasons. The first reason would be apparent to any alien that came down and watched us. They would say that this mammal, this weak mammal, from its orifice of ingestion emits a complex series of grunts and noises by which they communicate. I'm using them now to communicate with you. And these grunts can be used to transmit very, very complex things, such as go to the hardware store, Swenson's, not Mulligan's hardware store, and pick up a 1-pound box of 8-penny galvanized roofing nails. Or, that's not the kind of Rembrandt I like. Or, I love you, just not in that way. It is through these grunts that we actually have a huge advantage over other species. We can communicate with our past. We can learn and transmit information from previous generations to the next generation. We can learn about where to find the best food, how to construct the best shelter, what herbs are best against disease, how to attract and retain a mate. That still requires some elaboration. And through this, we are able to pass on information that otherwise would have to be inherited. But I believe that that's only the first reason. The second reason is perhaps more important. The second reason is our love of difficulty. You see, contrary to the brochures in the travel industry, we don't like fun and frolic. We crave difficulty. How else do you explain the existence of video games? What are they other than canned difficulty? And in fact, you need to go to the next level because it is more difficult. How else do you explain what otherwise incredibly successful men and women, after reaching the peak of their careers, spend their retirement time with a stick chasing a small white ball into a very distant hole? Because it is difficult. We love difficulty. In fact, we don't even love difficulty, we love mastery. We love to master something. And in fact, as you can now read in many, many journals, it is not talent that differentiates the good and the great. It is disciplined mastery of what you choose to do. The best example I have is that of Jascha Heifetz. Jascha Heifetz, what I think was the best violinist that ever existed. And he was famous for, after having reached the pinnacle of his career, for practicing 8 hours every day. And people would ask him, why do you still practice 8 hours every day after you have gotten so incredibly good? And he replied, if I only practice 2 hours a day, my audience will hear the difference. If I only practice 4 hours a day, my critics will hear the difference. If I only practice 6 hours a day, the conductor will hear the difference. And if I only practice 7 hours a day, I will hear the difference. My music demands its mastery. This is critical to how mankind has achieved, because if we simply repeated the same thing over and over again, we would still be living in caves, we would still be hunting our food, we would still be engaging in age-old dating rituals. I can't believe I just did that on stage. Did anyone find that at all attractive? I was afraid not. And in fact, it is this ability to go after difficulty and to master things and pass it on from the past to the future that means that we do not depend upon our genes for evolution. We can accelerate our own evolution by simply communicating and mastering difficult things. Now, there's a third reason. The third reason is that if you try to do something very difficult, such as you conceding to sit next to Kurt, you don't have to look that uncomfortable. Come on, you relax. He's really a nice guy. I'm going to pick on you throughout the entire talk, Kurt. I hope you don't mind. Where the hell was I? Oh, yes, if you try to do something very difficult, you are going to fail. And if you fail repeatedly, you could lapse into despair. Despair is difficult to describe, but I have a description with me in the form of a poem. This poem was written by the great poet Michelangelo Buonarroti. You might know him better as a visual artist, the famous sculptor, Renaissance sculptor and painter. He wrote this poem upon the occasion of the painting of the vault of the Sistine Chapel, that iconic painting, which I'm sure you all know, depicting, among other things, the creation of man. If you were to list the 10 greatest works of art ever in history, surely this piece would number among them. He wrote a poem, I have it with me, a poem in the form of a letter to a friend of his, Giovanni di Pistoia, and this is entitled When the Author Was Painting the Vault of the Sistine Chapel, 1509. I've already grown a goiter from this torture, hunched up here like a cat in Lombardy, or anywhere else where the stagnant water's poison. My stomach squashed under my chin, my beard's pointing at heaven, my brain is crushed in a casket. My breast twists like a harpy's, my brush above me all the time dribbles paint, so my face makes a fine floor for its droppings. My haunches are grinding into my guts, my poor ass strains to work as a counterweight. Every gesture I make is blind and aimless. My skin hangs loose below me, my spine's all knotted from folding over itself. I'm bent taut as a Syrian bow. Because I'm stuck like this, my thoughts are crazy, perfidious tripe. Anyone shoots badly through a crooked blowpipe. My painting is dead. Defend it for me, Giovanni. Defend my honor. I am not in the right place. I am not a painter. In the middle of painting, the most magnificent masterpieces known to history, he writes, my painting is dead. Defend it for me, Giovanni. Protect my honor. I am not in the right place. I am not a painter. If you have never felt like this, you have probably not tried to achieve something of sufficient difficulty. And it is actually overcoming despair which makes one truly great. Part 2 of my musings, called Defining Your Difficulty. Have you ever noticed that many business analogies